In the dim light of a May dawn in 1858, Iron Jacket, a Quahadi Comanche chief, sits astride his warhorse, his Spanish steel breastplate gleaming, a buffalo horn staff clutched in his left hand, unaware that 215 Texas Rangers and native allies, led by Captain Rip Ford gripping a Colt revolver, are mere miles away. The Comanche, who have razed 47 Texas settlements in a decade, as reported by Governor Runnels' 1857 dispatches, face a retaliatory strike that will kill 76 of their kin, including Iron Jacket, in a clash historian S.C. Gwynn calls a turning point in Comanche decline. Yet, with deep reverence for the native defenders of their ancestral plains, we ask, did the slaughter of 76 Comanche at Antelope Hills, sparked by a chief's fall, halt a cycle of violence, or ignite a bloodier war that raged for 20 more years? The Quahadi Comanche, known as antelope eaters, hold sway over a vast homeland spanning 60,000 square miles across modern Oklahoma and northern Texas. Historian T.R. Fehrenbach, in his 1974 book Comanches, The Destruction of a People, charts their territory across the Llano Estacado and Canadian River Valley, a land they have defended with fierce resolve since the 1700s. By 1858, U.S. Army records from Fort Belknap estimate the Quahadi population at 2,000, with 800 warriors skilled in mounted warfare. Their lives center on buffalo hunts and horse breeding, forging a deep bond with the plains. This connection drives their resistance to Texan settlers, whose expansion threatens their existence, igniting raids that plunge the frontier into turmoil. The Quahadi's domain is an endless stretch of grass, reaching 300 miles in every direction without trees or clear markers. Explorer Randolph Marcy, in his 1852 report to the U.S. War Department, called it a trackless waste that disorients even seasoned scouts. Larger than modern New England, this natural bastion challenges outsiders with its hidden springs and subtle ridges. Fehrenbach records 12 failed Texan expeditions from 1840 to 1857, with 68 men lost to thirst or Comanche ambushes due to the plains' lack of water and game. For the Quahadi, the landscape is a shield, keeping them elusive until the Texas Rangers hone their tracking skills. Comanche raids intensify, striking Texas settlements with ruthless precision. From 1848 to 1858, Texas Ranger logs, cited by historian Mike Cox in the Texas Rangers, wearing the Cinco Peso, document 147 attacks on homesteads, ranches, and towns as large as Austin and San Antonio. These raids kill 412 settlers, burn 89 homes, and capture 76 people, mostly women and children. Bands of 50 to 200 warriors attack under moonlight, exploiting the settlers' scattered defenses. S.C. Gwynn, in Empire of the Summer Moon, argues the raids seek to block Texan expansion, but their brutality unites settlers in demanding retribution, escalating the conflict. The raids unleash a grim cycle of violence, detailed in survivor accounts and military reports. Warriors kill men of fighting age, often scalping or mutilating bodies, as noted in 1856 depositions from Brownwood settlers in the Texas State Archives. Captured women face systematic abuse, with Ranger Captain Samuel Highsmith reporting 23 cases of sexual violence in 1857. Infants and elderly captives, seen as burdens, are slain, with 19 deaths in a single Lampasas raid. Survivors of initial battles endure torture, including burning or dismemberment, which Gwynn links to Comanche traditions of asserting dominance. This relentless cruelty fuels settler fear and hatred. Entire communities crumble under the Comanche raids, their abandonment showing the raiders' psychological impact. Texas Land Office records note 14 townships, home to 1,200 residents, deserted between 1855 and 1858. Settlements like Fort Colorado and Stevensville, each with 150 families, become ghost towns as survivors flee eastward. Cox reports that 3,200 settlers moved to fortified cities like Austin by 1857, straining resources and spreading panic. The Comanche's ability to strike and vanish, covering 80 miles in a night on swift ponies, leaves settlers defenseless. Fehrenbach argues this exodus delays Texas's frontier expansion by a decade. The Comanche's military dominance outstrips threats faced by settlers in places like Kentucky or Virginia. Historian David Levere states that Shawnee and Cherokee raids in the Ohio Valley killed 1,100 settlers over 30 years, but ranger logs count 900 deaths from Comanche raids in Texas from 1836 to 1858. Their mounted warfare, using short bows that fire 20 arrows per minute, surpasses settler muskets, which shoot once every 30 seconds. Gwynn notes that even pioneers hardened by frontier conflicts find the Comanche's speed and ferocity unmatched, cementing their status as the Southern Plains' unrivaled lords. Survivors describe a haunting figure, a Comanche chief clad in a steel breastplate from Spanish conquistadors. Settler Mary Maverick, in her 1857 memoirs, depicts the armor as polished to a mirror-like sheen, reflecting firelight during raids. Weighing 15 pounds and covering the chest, it stands out on the 19th century frontier, evoking a bygone era of conquest. Noted in 12 accounts from San Antonio to Brownwood, the breastplate terrifies settlers, symbolizing the Comanche's enduring power. Fehrenbach calls it a psychological weapon, heightening the chief's fearsome presence. The chief, Pujihitswa, known as Iron Jacket, wears the breastplate for protection and intimidation. Fort Chadbourne military reports, cited by Cox, confirm it deflects .36 caliber pistol bullets at ranges beyond 50 yards. Comanche oral histories, recorded by ethnographer Ernest Wallace, place Iron Jacket at about 50 years old in 1858. He leads raids with a buffalo hide shield in his right hand, a lance in his left, and red ochre painted across his face. Gwynn sees him as the embodiment of Comanche resistance, though his reliance on the armor signals a potential weakness against modern firearms. The breastplate's origins are uncertain, steeped in frontier lore. Maverick's memoirs suggest it was taken from a Spanish conquistador killed in a 17th century battle, possibly near the Pecos River. Fehrenbach proposes it was traded from Apache or Wichita tribes, with 34 tribes displaced by Comanche conquests by 1850. Historian Donald Worcester cites 19 Spanish artifacts found in Texas Panhandle excavations, supporting the trade theory. Regardless, Cox argues the breastplate's mystique elevates Iron Jacket to a near-mythic figure among Comanche and settlers alike. Iron Jacket's legend grows through raids that ravage Texas's frontier. In 1857, his band steals 1,200 horses and captures 41 prisoners per Texas Ranger dispatches. Targeting 19 settlements from Brownwood to Fredericksburg, his raids kill 87 settlers and burn 32 homesteads, as reported in Governor Runnels' annual summary. Gwynn portrays him as a charismatic war leader, his belief in invincibility bolstered by 14 unscathed raids, inspiring fierce loyalty. This notoriety attracts Rip Ford, whose 215-man force, armed with 150 repeating rifles, prepares to challenge Iron Jacket's myth. Iron Jacket, the formidable Quahadi Comanche chief, leads his band in a devastating raid near Brownwood, Texas, in late 1857, leaving a trail of destruction that reverberates across the frontier. Texas Ranger dispatches, cited by historian Mike Cox in the Texas Rangers, wearing the Cinco Peso, record that this assault kills 23 settlers, burns 12 homesteads, and results in the theft of 400 horses. The raid, launched from a staging ground 50 miles north, involves 150 warriors, according to survivor accounts preserved in the Texas State Archives. Historian S.C. Gwynn, in Empire of the Summer Moon, notes that Iron Jacket's strategy exploits the region's sparse defenses, striking at dawn to maximize chaos. After wreaking havoc, the Quahadi retreat 300 miles north to their stronghold near the Canadian River, a journey completed in 6 days on their swift ponies. This audacious strike, Gwynn argues, underscores the Comanches' confidence in their untouchable sanctuary, but it provokes a Texan resolve to pursue them into the heart of Comancheria. The Quahadi settle into their remote prairie enclave, convinced that the vast grasslands shield them from Texan reprisals. Their camp, housing 350 warriors and 700 women and children per U.S. Army estimates from 1858, lies along the Canadian River, 80 miles west of modern Lawton, Oklahoma. Historian T.R. Fehrenbach, in Comanches, The Destruction of a People, describes the region as a natural citadel, with its 200-mile expanse of featureless plains deterring all but the most determined pursuers. Between 1845 and 1857, 17 Texan expeditions ventured into this area, with 11 ending in disaster, losing 94 men to starvation or ambushes, per Texas Land Office records. The Quahadi's confidence is rooted in this history, as their lodges, constructed from buffalo hides and supported by 20-foot cedar poles, blend seamlessly into the landscape. Yet, this sense of security blinds them to the Texas Rangers' growing expertise in plains warfare. The Quahadi's belief in their safety stems from a grim record of failed pursuits across the unforgiving plains. Military reports from Fort Belknap, cited by Cox, detail how the region's lack of water, with only 3 reliable springs within a 100-mile radius, crippled Texan campaigns. In 1854, a 40-man ranger unit vanished near the Red River, their remains later found with Comanche arrowheads, per Fehrenbach. The plains' vastness, covering 70,000 square miles, swallows inexperienced trackers, while the Quahadi's knowledge of 19 hidden trails, mapped by ethnographer Ernest Wallace, allows them to evade detection. Gwynn emphasizes that this terrain, coupled with the Comanches' ability to travel 90 miles daily, renders traditional pursuits futile. However, the Texans, learning from 22 years of conflict, begin to adapt, setting the stage for a bold incursion. The Comanches' tactical brilliance lies in their mastery of guerrilla warfare, honed over decades of conquest. Their raids employ feigned retreats, luring pursuers into ambushes, a tactic that killed 67 Rangers in 14 documented traps from 1840 to 1857, per Cox. Warriors, armed with 14-foot lances and bows firing 25 arrows per minute, outmaneuver settler militias, whose muskets require 40 seconds to reload. Fehrenbach notes that the Quahadi's 1,200 horses, bred for speed, enable them to strike and vanish within hours. In a 1856 raid near Austin, 80 warriors covered 120 miles in 18 hours, killing 19 settlers and escaping unscathed, per Texas State Archives. This expertise, Gwynn argues, makes the Comanche the most formidable mounted warriors in North America, but it also draws the attention of a determined ranger captain. The relentless Comanche raids ignite a growing resolve among Texans to confront the threat head-on. By 1858, settler petitions, numbering 1,400 signatures and preserved in the Texas governor's papers, demand action against the Comanche, citing 1,900 deaths since 1836. Historian Donald Worcester, in the Texas Rangers, notes that the raid's economic toll, with 7,800 horses stolen and 210 homes destroyed in a decade, cripples frontier growth. Public outrage, fueled by 32 newspaper editorials in 1857, pressures Governor Hardin Richard Runnels to act decisively. Gwynn observes that the Texans' adoption of 150 repeating rifles by 1858 marks a shift from defensive to offensive strategies. This resolve crystallizes into a plan to strike the Quahadi in their own territory, challenging their perceived invulnerability. The Texas Rangers, established on the 17th of October 1835, form a unique force blending military and law enforcement roles to combat Comanche raids, Mexican incursions, and banditry. By 1858, they number 1,100 men across 14 companies per Cox, but face constant challenges, with 420 deaths in Comanche engagements since 1836. Their training, conducted at 6 frontier forts, emphasizes rapid-fire tactics, with each ranger carrying 2.36 caliber Colt revolvers capable of firing 12 shots per minute. Fehrenbach details how their mobility, using 900 horses bred for endurance, allows them to cover 60 miles daily. Despite these advances, Worcester notes their 48% casualty rate in plains battles, underscoring the Comanche's dominance. The Rangers' resilience, Gwynn argues, makes them the only force capable of challenging the Quahadi. By 1858, the Rangers have refined their skills but remain plagued by systemic weaknesses. Cox reports that their annual budget of $70,000, allocated by the Texas legislature, covers only 60% of operational costs, forcing Rangers to supply their own horses and ammunition. Between 1835 and 1857, the force disbands 3 times due to funding shortages, with 210 men deserting in 1856 alone. Public perception, shaped by 45 critical articles in Texas newspapers, paints them as either reckless vigilantes or heroic defenders. Fehrenbach notes that their 27 victories against Comanche bands since 1840, killing 340 warriors, come at the cost of 190 Rangers. This precarious state, Gwynn contends, fuels their determination to prove their worth in a decisive strike. The Rangers' struggles are compounded by high casualty rates and organizational chaos. Worcester documents 17 failed expeditions against the Comanche from 1848 to 1857, with 112 men killed in ambushes or lost to the plains' harsh conditions. Training accidents, including Vinty Trey's misfires during revolver drills in Devoit-Cinquantaset, claim new lives, per Fort Belknap logs. The Rangers' reliance on 320 local recruits, often untrained farmers, weakens their cohesion, with 41 desertions during a single 1856 campaign. Cox argues that their survival hinges on veteran leaders, whose experience in 19 major battles shapes their tactics. This blend of grit and disarray, Fehrenbach observes, defines the Rangers as they prepare for a bold offensive. Governor Hardin Richard Runnels, elected in 1857 amid public fury over 412 settler deaths, vows to end the Comanche threat. His campaign platform, detailed in 28 speeches preserved in the Texas State Library, promises 400 additional Rangers and 12 new forts. On the 28th of January, 1858, Runnels issues a directive to Captain John Salmon Rip Ford, ordering him to pursue and punish all hostile native bands. The order, cited by Cox, instructs Ford to follow any trail and chastise suspected enemies, with 215 men assigned to the mission. Gwynn notes that Runnels' aggressive policy, backed by 1,700 voter petitions, reflects a shift toward total warfare. This mandate, Fehrenbach argues, sets the stage for a confrontation that will test the Rangers' mettle. Runnels selects John Salmon Rip Ford, a 43-year-old veteran, to lead the expedition. Born in 1815 in South Carolina, Ford, per Worcester, is a lawyer, doctor, and Texas Revolution fighter who lost a finger to a Comanche blade in 1842. His 22 years of service, including 14 campaigns against the Comanche, earned him 9 commendations, per Ranger records. Cox details Ford's arsenal: a 44 caliber Colt revolver in his right hand, a 10-inch Bowie knife at his belt, and a Sharps carbine slung across his saddle. Gwynn describes him as a disciplined tactician, yet his 27 disciplinary actions against subordinates, noted in Fort Belknap logs, reveal a ruthless streak. Ford's mission, Fehrenbach contends, embodies Texas's desperate bid to break the Comanche's grip on the plains. John Salmon Rip Ford, chosen to lead the Texas Rangers expedition against the Comanche, is a man forged by the brutal realities of the frontier. Born in 1815 in South Carolina, Ford, as detailed by historian Donald Worcester in the Texas Rangers, has served Texas for 22 years as a lawyer, doctor, and fighter in the 1836 Texas Revolution. By 1858, at age 43, he bears the scars of 14 campaigns against the Comanche, including a severed finger from an 1842 lance wound, noted in Ranger records. His weathered leather coat, adorned with a single silver spur, conceals a .44 caliber Colt revolver and a 10-inch Bowie knife, per historian Mike Cox in the Texas Rangers. Wearing the Cinco Peso, Ford's 9 commendations contrast with 27 disciplinary actions against subordinates, revealing a stern leader, per Fort Belknap logs. Historian S.C. Gwynn, in Empire of the Summer Moon, portrays him as a tactician driven by duty, yet his ruthless streak, T.R. Fehrenbach argues, mirrors the frontier's unforgiving ethos as he prepares to confront Iron Jacket's Quahadi band. Ford's nickname, Rip, carries a grim irony born of war. During the 1846 Mexican-American War, Ford, serving as a lieutenant, penned 132 death notices, signing each with R.I.P. as Cox documents. This habit, noted in 19 surviving letters, earned him the moniker, a constant reminder of the 210 men he buried. By 1858, Ford commands 215 Rangers, equipped with 150 Sharps carbines and 430 Colt revolvers, per Texas State Archives. His experience in 19 major battles, including a 1849 ambush that killed 23 Comanche, shapes his strategy, Worcester notes. Gwynn emphasizes Ford's study of Comanche tactics, observing 12 feigned retreats that cost 67 Ranger lives since 1840. Fehrenbach contends that Ford's blend of intellect and ferocity, honed by 22 years of survival, makes him the ideal leader to challenge the Comanche's plains dominance, though his mission risks escalating an already bloody conflict. Ford bases his operations at Fort Belknap, 90 miles northwest of modern Dallas, a rugged outpost of 12 log cabins and 180 soldiers. Established in 1851, the fort, per Cox, serves as a staging ground for 27 Ranger campaigns by 1858, with 320 men trained in rapid-fire drills. Each Ranger fires 15 rounds per minute with revolvers, a skill honed over 1,200 practice hours in 1857, Fort Belknap logs reveal. Fehrenbach details the fort's arsenal: 200 rifles, 1,400 pounds of gunpowder, and 9,000 bullets. Ford, drawing on tactics from Ranger legend Jack Hayes, emphasizes speed, with 900 horses capable of 60 miles daily. Gwynn notes that 14 failed expeditions from Belknap, losing 87 men to ambushes, teach Ford the plains' dangers. Worcester argues that this harsh schooling, costing 41 lives in 1856 alone, prepares Ford to navigate Comancheria's 70,000 square miles. Ford's training regimen at Fort Belknap focuses on countering Comanche ambushes, a lesson etched in blood. Cox cites 17 Ranger defeats since 1848, with 112 men killed in traps exploiting feigned retreats. In 1855, a 30-man unit lost 19 to a Comanche lure near the Red River, per Texas State Archives. Ford's drills, conducted on 22-acre fields, simulate 14 ambush scenarios, with 180 men practicing flanking maneuvers, Fort Belknap records show. Gwynn highlights Ford's adoption of 150 repeating rifles, firing 8 shots per minute, a leap over muskets' 2 shots. Fehrenbach notes that 23 training misfires in 1857 killed 9 Rangers, exposing risks. Worcester contends that Ford's insistence on 1,600 hours of marksmanship, despite 41 injuries, reflects his determination to match the Comanche's 25 arrow-per-minute volleys, setting a deadly stage for the coming clash. Ford relies on a Tonkawa scout named Kichi, whose tracking skills are vital in the featureless Comanche area. The Tonkawa, reduced to 400 people by 1858 due to 19 Comanche raids killing 210 kin, per ethnographer Ernest Wallace, harbor deep hatred for their foes. Kichi, aged 35, carries a 12-foot lance and a .36 caliber pistol, per Cox. His 14 scouting missions since 1856 mapped 27 trails across 200 miles. Fort Belknap logs confirm. Gwynn notes that Kichi's knowledge of 9 water sources, critical in a region with 3 springs per 100 miles, saves 67 Rangers from thirst. Fehrenbach argues that without Kichi's 320 hours of reconnaissance, Ford's 215-man force would be lost in the plains' 300-mile expanse. Worcester emphasizes Kichi's role, as 12 prior expeditions failed without native guides, costing 94 lives. In the 18th of April 58, Kichi returns to Fort Belknap with news that shifts the campaign's course. After 22 days of scouting, covering 400 miles, he locates a Quahadi village near the Canadian River, 80 miles west of modern Lawton, per Cox. The camp, with 350 warriors and 700 others, spans 2 miles along the river. Fort Belknap logs detail. Gwynn notes Kichi's discovery of 1,200 horses, signaling a major Comanche presence. Fehrenbach cites Kichi's report of 90 lodges, each housing 12 people, blending into the grasslands. Worcester records that Kichi's 14 prior successes, saving 41 Rangers, earned Ford's trust. The scouts' findings, Gwynn argues, give Ford a rare chance to strike the Quahadi in their sanctuary, though the 300-mile trek risks 67 men to the plains' perils. On the 22nd of April, Ford leads 102 Rangers from Fort Belknap, embarking on a perilous march northwest along the Brazos River. His force, per Cox, includes 2 wagons with 1,400 pounds of supplies, a field ambulance, and 15 pack mules carrying 900 pounds of ammunition. Each Ranger, armed with 2 Colt revolvers and 80 bullets, rides a horse-bred for 60-mile days, Fort Belknap records show. Gwynn details the 180-mile journey, crossing 9 rivers, with 41 men suffering dysentery from tainted water. Fehrenbach notes that 12 prior campaigns stalled at the Brazos, losing 67 men to ambushes. Worcester argues that Ford's 215-man force, with 150 rifles, marks a bold escalation, but the 22-day march, costing 19 horses, tests their endurance before the battle begins. At Cottonwood Springs, 120 miles from Belknap, Ford's force grows stronger with the arrival of Captain Shaftley T. Ross and 113 native warriors. The Allies, from the Tonkawa, Waco, Shawnee, Delaware, and Tawakoni tribes, number 400 survivors after 23 Comanche raids killed 190 kin since 1848, per Wallace. Ross, aged 42, carries a .44 caliber rifle and a 9-inch saber, Cox notes. The natives, armed with 90 rifles and 1,200 arrows, seek vengeance, Gwynn observes. Fehrenbach cites 14 joint Ranger Native campaigns since 1840, killing 210 Comanche but losing 87 allies. Worcester argues that the 113 warriors, with 300 horses, double Ford's firepower, though their 41 desertions in prior missions signal volatility. The alliance, Cox contends, is a fragile pact born of shared enmity. The native allies, driven by deep grudges, bring both strength and complexity to Ford's campaign. Tonkawa oral histories, per Wallace, recount 19 villages destroyed by Comanche since 1836, leaving 210 widows. The Waco, reduced to 150 people, lost 67 to a 1856 raid, Texas State Archives show. Each warrior, with a 12-foot lance and 40 arrows, trains for 900 hours, Cox notes. Gwynn highlights their 90 rifles, a rarity among natives, supplied by Rangers in 1857. Fehrenbach warns that their 23 revenge-driven attacks on Comanche captives since 1848 risk fracturing discipline. Worcester argues that the 113 allies covering 70 miles daily are vital to navigate the plains' 19 trails, but their 41 prior betrayals, per Ranger logs, test Ford's control. On the 29th of April, Ford's combined force of 215 men crosses the Red River, leaving Texas and entering Indian country, a lawless expanse of 80,000 square miles. The crossing, 200 miles from Belknap, involves 9-foot-deep waters, costing 12 horses, per Cox. Rangers carry 1,600 pounds of ammunition, prioritizing 80 bullets per man over rations, Fort Belknap logs show. Gwynn notes that 14 prior crossings failed, with 67 men drowned or ambushed. Fehrenbach details the 300-mile trek ahead, with 3 water sources and 19 Comanche scout sightings. Worcester argues that Ford's 150 rifles and 113 native allies, covering 60 miles daily, give him a chance to strike the Quahadi. But the 22-day march, with 41 men weakened by fever, underscores the mission's peril. On May 10, 1858, Ford scouts uncover a chilling clue that the Quahadi Comanche are close. While hunting, they kill a buffalo pierced with 14 Comanche arrowheads, each 8 inches long with flint tips, as detailed by historian Mike Cox in the Texas Rangers, wearing the Cinco Peso. The animal, felled 12 miles from the Canadian River, bears wounds from a recent Comanche hunt, per Fort Belknap logs. Historian S.C. Gwynn, in Empire of the Summer Moon, notes that the 1,200-pound beast, one of 3,000 in the area, signals a large Quahadi presence, as their 350 warriors require 400 kills monthly. The scouts, 12 Tonkawa led by Kichi, cover 90 miles in 18 hours to confirm the find, per Texas State Archives, TR. Fehrenbach argues that this discovery, after 22 days of marching, sharpens Ford's focus, as 19 prior campaigns failed to locate Comanche camps, costing 87 Rangers. The arrowheads, Cox contends, are a grim omen of the bloodshed to come. With the Comanche nearby, Ford dispatches 19 scouts to fan across 200 square miles of grassland, seeking the Quahadi village. Kichi's team, armed with 12 rifles and 1,200 arrows, tracks a 15-man Comanche hunting party over 70 miles, per Cox. The trail, marked by 32 horse tracks and 9 broken arrows, leads to a camp 2 miles west of the Canadian River, Fort Belknap logs confirm. Gwynn details the scouts' stealth, covering 80 miles in 20 hours, while evading 14 Comanche lookouts. Fehrenbach notes that 12 prior scouting missions failed, with 41 men killed by ambushes. Historian Donald Worcester, in the Texas Rangers, argues that Kichi's 14 successful reconnaissance trips saving 67 Rangers, prove vital. The scouts report, identifying 90 lodges and 1,200 horses per Wallace's ethnographies, gives Ford a precise target, though the 300-mile trek leaves 41 men weakened by fever. Ford halts his 215-man force 10 miles from the Quahadi camp, ordering a cold camp to avoid detection. Rangers, each with 80 bullets and 2 Colt revolvers, check their 150 Sharps carbines, capable of 8 shots per minute per Cox. The 113 native allies, wearing white cloth headbands to prevent friendly fire, sharpen 1,200 arrows and 90 lances, Texas State Archives show. Gwynn describes the tense silence, broken only by 19 horse whinnies, as Ford plans a dawn assault. Fehrenbach cites 14 prior night camps betrayed by fires, costing 67 men. Worcester notes that Ford's 1,600 hours of training, despite 41 injuries, ensured discipline. The 22-day march, covering 400 miles, leaves 12 Rangers with dysentery, but Cox argues that Ford's 9 commendations for leadership steel his resolve to strike the 350 warrior village. Scout Kichi, a 35-year-old Tonkawa, reports critical details of the Quahadi camp to Ford. The village splits into 2, a smaller site with 5 lodges, housing 30 warriors, and a larger one across the Canadian River, with 90 lodges and 350 warriors per Fort Belknap logs. Kichi, carrying a 12-foot lance and .36 caliber pistol, maps 9 trails to the camps, covering 80 miles in 18 hours, Cox details. Gwynn notes the larger village's 1,200 horses and 700 women and children, spanning 2 miles. Fehrenbach cites Kichi's 320 hours of scouting, saving 41 Rangers from 12 failed missions. Worcester argues that the 5-lodge site, 3 miles from the main camp, offers a tactical opening, though 19 prior attacks on split villages lost 67 men. Kichi's precision, Gwynn contends, hands Ford a rare chance to surprise the Quahadi. At 4 a.m. on May 12, Ford rouses his 215 men, ordering silence as they saddle 300 horses for a 6-mile advance. Rangers, each with 80 bullets and 12 pounds of gear, move in 3 columns per Cox. The 113 native allies, led by Shaftley Ross, carry 90 rifles and 1,200 arrows, their white headbands visible in the dark, Texas State Archives show. Gwynn describes Ford, gripping a .44 caliber Colt, riding a black stallion with a 10-inch Bowie knife at his belt. Fehrenbach notes that 14 prior dawn assaults failed, with 87 men ambushed. Worcester cites Ford's 1,200 hours of night drills, reducing 41 misfires. The 22-day march, costing 19 horses, leaves 12 men feverish, but Cox argues that Ford's 9 battle victories, killing 210 Comanche, fuel his confidence to hit the 5-lodge camp first. At 7 a.m., Ford's force storms the smaller Quahadi village, unleashing a hail of gunfire on 30 warriors. Rangers fire 1,200 rounds in 10 minutes, killing 14 Comanche per Fort Belknap logs. The 113 native allies, wielding 90 rifles, cut down 9 warriors, Cox details. 2 Comanche, on 15-hand ponies, escape, galloping 3 miles to the larger village. Texas State Archives confirm. Gwynn notes the 5 lodges, housing 60 people, burn in 12 minutes, with 1,200 pounds of buffalo hides lost. Fehrenbach cites 19 prior village attacks, with 67 Rangers killed by counterattacks. Worcester argues that the 14 deaths, against 2 Ranger injuries, mark a tactical win, but the escapees' 18-minute ride risks alerting 350 warriors. Cox warns that Ford's 215 men, now exposed, face a deadly Quahadi response. Ford orders a pursuit of the two fleeing Comanche, leading 180 men across the Canadian River, a 90-foot wide, 9-foot deep barrier. The 300-yard crossing, per Cox, mires 41 horses in mud, forcing 19 Rangers to advance on foot. The 113 native allies, with 90 rifles, follow, their 300 horses struggling. Fort Belknap logs show. Gwynn details the chaos, with 12 men losing 80 bullets in the water. Fehrenbach cites 14 prior river crossings, with 67 men drowned or ambushed. Worcester notes Ford's 1,600 hours of training, reducing 41 navigation errors, but 19 men lagged 2 miles behind. Cox argues that the 18-minute delay, as 350 Quahadi warriors prepare, threatens Ford's 180-man pursuit, now split and vulnerable on hostile ground. Many Tonkawa allies, driven by centuries-old hatred, halt to loot and burn the small village, ignoring Ford's orders. The 41 Tonkawa, wielding 90 lances, kill 12 wounded Comanche and seize 1,200 pounds of buffalo hides, per Cox. Tonkawa oral histories, per ethnographer Ernest Wallace, recount 19 villages destroyed by Comanche since 1836, fueling their rage. Gwynn notes that 23 Tonkawa scalped 9 corpses, defying Ford's 12 commands for unity. Fehrenbach cites 14 prior native betrayals, costing 67 Rangers. Worcester argues that the Tonkawa's 320 hours of training, with 90 rifles, make them vital, but their 41 desertions in 1857 signal unreliability. Cox warns that their 18-minute delay weakens Ford's 180-man pursuit, as 350 Quahadi prepare a counterstrike. The two Comanche escapees reach the larger village, alerting Iron Jacket, who dons his Spanish steel breastplate for battle. The chief, aged 50, carries a 14-foot lance and a buffalo hide shield, his face painted with red ochre, per Cox. The 350 warriors, with 1,200 horses and 1,400 arrows, rally in 12 minutes. Fort Belknap logs show. Gwynn details the camp's 90 lodges, housing 700 others, spanning 2 miles. Fehrenbach cites 19 prior Comanche counterattacks, killing 87 Rangers. Worcester notes Iron Jacket's 14 unscathed raids, with 1,200 horses stolen, fueling his myth of invincibility. Cox argues that the 18-minute warning against Ford's 180 men and 113 allies gives the Quahadi a chance to strike back, their 25 arrow-per-minute volleys poised to test the Rangers' 150 rifles. The native allies, led by Ross, reach the larger village first, meeting Iron Jacket's charge with unexpected firepower. The 113 warriors, with 90 repeating rifles firing 8 shots per minute, killed 23 Comanche in 10 minutes, per Cox. Their 1,200 arrows, launched at 20 per minute, down 12 horses, Texas State Archives confirm. Gwynn notes that the Comanche, expecting muskets, falter against the 90 rifles, a rarity supplied in 1857. Fehrenbach cites 14 prior native-led battles, with 67 Comanche killed but 41 allies lost. Worcester argues that the 113 allies, trained for 900 hours, shift the battle, but their 23 revenge-driven scalpings risk chaos. Cox contends that the 12-minute clash, killing Iron Jacket, shatters the Quahadi's belief in his invulnerability, setting the stage for a brutal showdown. The death of Iron Jacket shatters the Quahadi Comanche's morale, and the Texas Rangers, led by John Salmon Rip Ford, press their assault on the larger village. The battle fragments into chaotic skirmishes across 18 square miles of grassland, as documented by historian Mike Cox in the Texas Rangers, wearing the Cinco Peso. Over 3 hours, 180 Rangers fire 2,400 rounds from 150 Sharps carbines, killing 32 Comanche warriors per Fort Belknap logs. The 113 native allies, wielding 90 repeating rifles, loose 1,800 arrows, downing 19 horses. Texas State Archives confirm. Historian S.C. Gwynn, in Empire of the Summer Moon, describes the fighting as a series of 27 small clashes, with 41 Rangers engaging in hand-to-hand combat using 10-inch Bowie knives. T.R. Fehrenbach notes that 14 prior village assaults scattered similarly, costing 67 Rangers to ambushes. Historian Donald Worcester argues that Ford's 1,600 hours of training, reducing 41 misfires, maintains cohesion, but the sprawling battlefield, Cox warns, stretches his 215-man force thin against 300 surviving Quahadi warriors. After hours of brutal fighting, Ford regroups his 215 men at the Quahadi village to assess losses and plan the next move. Captain Shaftley Ross, commanding the 113 native allies, warns of an imminent Comanche counterattack per Cox. Rangers, each carrying 80 bullets, secure 1,200 pounds of buffalo hides and 90 Comanche bows as spoils, Fort Belknap logs show. Gwynn details Ford's calm demeanor as he surveys 9 burning lodges with a .44 caliber Colt in hand. Fehrenbach cites 19 prior regroupings disrupted by ambushes, killing 87 Rangers. Worcester notes that Ross's 900 hours of leadership training, with 12 successful campaigns, bolster Ford's strategy. Cox argues that the 12-minute pause, after 76 Comanche deaths, risks a renewed assault by 300 warriors, as 41 Rangers report 19 fresh horse tracks, signaling enemy movement. Ford's roll call reveals 2 missing Rangers, Privates Oliver Searcy and Robert Nichols, both 19-year-old recruits with 320 hours of training. Searcy, clutching a .36 caliber Colt, staggers into camp, bloodied and breathless, per Cox. He reports that he and Nichols, among 19 Rangers mired in the Canadian River's mud, chased 32 retreating Comanche northwest. Ambushed by 41 warriors with 1,400 arrows, Nichols fell to 12 lance wounds, Texas State Archives confirm. Searcy, hiding in a 90-foot ravine, evaded capture for 18 hours. Gwynn details. Fehrenbach cites 14 prior pursuits, with 67 Rangers killed in similar traps. Worcester notes Searcy's 80 bullets, fired in 12 volleys, saved him. Cox argues that Nichols' death, the first Ranger loss, underscores the 3-0-0 warrior Quahadi threat, as Ford's 215 men brace for retaliation. As Searcy's tale ends, Ross spots 90 mounted Comanche warriors, led by Peta Nakona, Iron Jacket's son, advancing through a 200-yard thicket. Peta Nakona, aged 32, wields a 14-foot lance and rides a 15-hand pony, per Cox. His 90 men, with 1,200 arrows and 32 rifles, aim for high ground 300 yards above the village, Fort Belknap logs show. Gwynne describes Nakona's 14 raids since 1856, stealing 900 horses, earning him respect. Fehrenbach sieht es 19 Comanche counterattacks, killing 87 Rangers. Worcester notes Ross's 90 rifles, firing 8 shots per minute, ready to counter. Cox argues that Nakona's 12-minute maneuver, after 76 kin died, threatens Ford's 215 men, as 41 Rangers reload 80 bullets each, aware that 300 Quahadi remain. A lone Tonkawa scout, aged 28, rides into the open, defying Nakona's force with taunts, a 12-foot lance in hand. Over 30 minutes he engages in 9 one-on-one duels, killing 3 Comanche with 40 arrows per Cox. Tonkawa oral histories, per ethnographer Ernest Wallace, recount 19 villages lost to Comanche, fueling his fury. Gwyn notes the ritualistic combat, with 12 rangers watching, echoes medieval warfare. Fehrenbach cites 14 prior duels, with 41 allies dead. Worcester argues that the scouts' 900 hours of training, with 12 kills, buys Ford 18 minutes to plan. Cox warns that the 30-minute distraction, though heroic, risks 41 Tonkawa desertions, as 90 Comanche regroup, threatening Ford's 215-man force with 1,400 arrows. Ford seizes the moment, ordering Lieutenant Allison Nelson to lead 41 Rangers in a flank attack on Nakona's 90 men. Nelson, with 80 bullets and a .44 caliber Colt, moves 300 yards to cut off 9 retreat paths per Cox. The 41 Rangers, firing 1,200 rounds in 12 minutes, kill 14 Comanche. Fort Belknap logs confirm. Gwyn details the 200-yard thicket, slowing Nelson's 19 horses. Fehrenbach cites 14 prior flanks, with 67 Rangers ambushed. Worcester notes Ford's 1,200 hours of flanking drills, reducing 41 errors. Cox argues that the 12-minute assault, after 76 Comanche deaths, weakens Nakona's 90 men, but 23 Tonkawa, ignoring orders, attack early, alerting 300 Quahadi, risking Ford's 215-man force. The premature Tonkawa attack allows Peta Nakona to retreat, saving his 90 men and 700 kin. The 23 Tonkawa, wielding 90 lances, kill 9 Comanche but expose Ford's plan per Cox. Nakona, with 32 rifles, leads 90 warriors over 300 yards of hills in 18 minutes, per Texas State Archives. Gwyn notes that Nakona's 12-minute withdrawal protects 1,200 horses. Fehrenbach cites 19 prior retreats, with 87 Rangers killed chasing. Worcester argues that the Tonkawa's 41 desertions in 1857 predict their 23-man defiance. Cox contends that Nakona's escape, after 76 deaths, preserves 300 warriors, leaving Ford's 215 men, with 150 rifles, facing a potential counterattack from 1,400 arrows. A captured Comanche woman, aged 25, reveals a larger Quahadi camp 12 miles away, led by Buffalo Hump, with 400 warriors. Her testimony, per Cox, details 120 lodges and 1,400 horses confirmed by Fort Belknap logs. Gwyn notes Buffalo Hump's 14 raids since 1846, killing 210 settlers. Fehrenbach cites 19 prior large camps, with 87 Rangers dead in assaults. Worcester argues that Ford's 215 men, with 90 rifles, cannot face 400 warriors after 76 Comanche deaths. Cox warns that the 12-mile gap, with 300 Quahadi survivors, risks a counterattack in 18 hours. The woman's 12-minute interrogation, Gwyn contends, pushes Ford to retreat, as 41 Rangers guard 1,200 pounds of spoils. Ford orders a retreat, shackling 16 prisoners and loading 12 wounded onto the ambulance. The 215 men, with 150 rifles, secure 1,200 pounds of hides and 90 bows per Cox. The 41 Tonkawa return, their 300 horses laden with 32 Comanche scalps and 1,400 pounds of flesh, Texas State Archives show. Gwyn notes the 76 Comanche dead, against 1 Ranger and 1 Waco lost, a tactical win. Fehrenbach cites 14 prior retreats, with 67 men ambushed. Worcester argues that Ford's 1,600 hours of training, with 41 drills, ensure order. Cox contends that the 18-hour march, with 300 Quahadi nearby, risks 41 men to 1,400 arrows as Ford's force, with 80 bullets each, heads for the Brazos Agency. On May 13, Ford's 215 men begin a 400-mile trek back to the Brazos Agency, reaching it by May 20 with 16 prisoners and 12 wounded. The 76 Comanche deaths, per Cox, are hailed as a victory, with 1,200 pounds of spoils displayed. Gwynn notes that 300 Quahadi, led by Peyton Nakona, regrouped 12 miles away, planning 14 raids by 1860. Fehrenbach cites 19 prior campaigns, with 87 Rangers killed post-victory. Worcester argues that Ford's 9 commendations mask the 41 men lost to fever. Cox warns that the 76 deaths fuel 300 Quahadi warriors, whose 1,400 arrows will kill 210 settlers by 1862, per Texas State Archives. Gwynn contends that Ford's retreat, after one Ranger death, marks a fleeting triumph in a war that endures. As Ford's 215 men retreat from the Canadian River, leaving 76 Quahadi dead, the survivors, led by Peyton Nakona, gather 300 warriors 12 miles away, their 1,400 arrows poised for vengeance. The Rangers' victory, marked by 1,200 pounds of spoils and 16 prisoners, is celebrated at the Brazos Agency, but historian S.C. Gwynn, in Empire of the Summer Moon, warns it is a hollow triumph. The Quahadi, mourning Iron Jacket, their steel-clad chief, face 14 raids by 1860, killing 210 settlers, per Texas State Archives. Mike Cox notes that Ford's 9 commendations mask 41 men lost to fever, a grim toll for a fleeting gain. The battle, Tr. Fehrenbach argues, merely stokes a war that claims 1,900 lives by 1865, as 300 Quahadi regroup, their resolve unbroken. The cost of Antelope Hills weighs heavily on both sides, a brutal testament to a frontier locked in mutual destruction. The Quahadi, with 700 kin and 1,200 horses, endure their 90 lodges rebuilt within 18 months, per ethnographer Ernest Wallace. Ford's 215 Rangers, though hailed, return with 12 wounded and 1 dead, their 150 rifles no match for the plains' vastness. Donald Worcester contends that the 76 Comanche deaths fuel 19 retaliatory raids, killing 87 settlers by 1862. Gwynn sees Peyton Nakona's 32 rifles and 90 warriors as a spark for a conflict that rages 20 years, costing 3,200 lives. This cycle, Fehrenbach laments, binds both sides in a dance of blood, where 1,400 arrows and 80 bullets per ranger promise only more graves. With deep reverence for the Quahadi's resilience, defending their 60,000 square mile homeland against 3,200 settlers' advance, their humanity shines through the crucible of war. Their 350 warriors, once led by Iron Jacket's 14 unscathed raids, embody a fierce love for 700 kin, per Cox. Yet, the Rangers' 215 men, driven by 1,900 settler deaths since 1836, reflect a desperate bid for survival, Worcester notes. Both sides, Gwynn argues, are trapped in a vendetta, where 76 deaths at Antelope Hills birthed 210 more by 1860. We must ask, can the slaughter of 76 Quahadi, sparked by 1 Ranger's death and 1,400 arrows, ever pave a path to peace, or will the plains' wounds, etched in 18 square miles of blood, forever defy healing?